He woke up early even though it was Saturday. The sunlight had barely touched the streets and the air smelled faintly of coffee and the city waking up. He rubbed his eyes, listening to the soft hum of the neighborhood coming alive. Birds were chirping somewhere between the power lines, and the faint sound of a car engine in the distance reminded him that life in the city never really stopped. He lived with his younger sister and mother in a small apartment on the third floor of a worn-down building. The paint on the walls had faded long ago, and the hallway carpet was threadbare, showing patches of the floor underneath. But even with all the cracks and peeling paint, he loved his home. It was theirs, and it was full of memories. His mother, tired from working double shifts at the diner, was still asleep, and he didn't want to wake her. He quietly dressed in a hoodie and a pair of worn-out sneakers that had seen better days. His life wasn't easy. Every day was a balancing act between school, part-time jobs, and helping his sister with homework. Money was always tight. Sometimes he skipped lunch just to make sure his sister could have hers. The small joys in life were simple: a shared sandwich on a park bench, a moment of laughter over a silly joke, or the smell of fresh bread from the corner bakery. He had learned early that happiness didn't come from things but from small acts of kindness and the love of the people around him. That morning was different. Today, the city was hosting a marathon. The streets were lined with banners, and the energy of the crowd was palpable even before the race began. He wasn't a runner, but he liked to watch. From the balcony of his building, he could see a portion of the route winding through the streets. People were stretching, checking their watches, and chatting excitedly. Some were professional runners, their legs toned and steady, while others were ordinary people, pushing themselves to reach a personal goal. He had planned to help out at the race for a few hours. There was a small station near the corner of his street, handing out water bottles and snacks to the runners. Volunteering wasn't glamorous, but it was better than staying idle at home. And besides, he liked the energy of the crowd. There was something inspiring about seeing people try their best, each one running for their own reasons, some for health, some for charity, and some just for the thrill of the race. As he walked down the street, he noticed the mixture of people who had come to watch: families with children, elderly couples holding hands, and groups of friends shouting encouragement. There were photographers snapping pictures and volunteers running alongside the runners, cheering them on. The atmosphere was alive, full of hope and determination. He set up his small station and began handing out water bottles. His hands moved quickly, passing bottles to tired runners and offering smiles and encouragement. "You're doing great. Keep it up," he called out to one young man whose face was red and dripping with sweat. The runners nodded or gave a quick smile, sometimes too focused on the road ahead to respond. But he didn't mind. He liked the idea of being a small part of someone's journey, even if they never knew his name. While helping, he noticed a young girl struggling to keep pace with the crowd. She was smaller than most runners, her legs moving as fast as they could, but she seemed to be falling behind. Her hair was tied in a ponytail, bouncing with every step, and her face was a mix of determination and fear. Something about her reminded him of his sister, small, brave, and unwilling to give up even when things got hard. He watched her for a moment, unsure if he should intervene. But then he saw her stumble. One second she was running, and the next she was on the ground, her shoes slipping on the wet pavement. People rushed past, focused on the race, not noticing her. Time slowed for him. Without thinking, he dropped the water bottle he was holding and ran toward her. "Hey, are you okay?" he shouted as he reached her. She looked up, her eyes wide with panic. She tried to stand, but her ankle twisted slightly, and she nearly fell again. He grabbed her arm gently, steadying her. "It's okay, I've got you," he said. Her voice trembled. I don't want to lose the race." "You won't," he said firmly. "But you need to be safe first. Come on, let's get you off the road." He helped her up and guided her to the sidewalk, away from the runners and the chaos. Her breathing was fast, and she looked around, embarrassed that so many people had passed her by without noticing. He handed her a water bottle and waited until her face regained some color. "Thank you," she whispered. I didn't know what to do." He shrugged, trying to make it seem casual. "No problem. Happens to the best of us." She smiled weakly, but he noticed the relief in her eyes. She had been scared, and now she felt safe. That small moment of helping someone, of making a difference, filled him with a quiet satisfaction. He had learned long ago that courage wasn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes, it was about being there when someone needed you most. They sat on the curb for a few minutes, catching their breath. The crowd continued around them, unaware of the small drama that had just unfolded. He kept talking, making small jokes to ease her nerves, and slowly, she started to laugh. The tension in her shoulders eased, and he could see the spark of her determination returning. "Do you want to keep going?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes, I can do this." "Then let's do it," he said, offering his arm for support. Together, they stood and walked a few steps. He helped her find a steady rhythm, making sure she was stable before letting her continue on her own. She ran a little ahead, but she kept glancing back, a look of gratitude in her eyes. As he watched her disappear into the crowd, he felt a strange mix of emotions. Pride, because he had helped someone in need. Relief, because she was safe. And curiosity, because there was something about her that seemed different. She carried herself with a confidence and poise he wasn't used to seeing in ordinary runners. There was a quiet strength in her that made him wonder who she really was. He returned to his station, hands sticky from water bottles and sweat, but his heart light. The rest of the morning passed quickly, with runners coming and going, volunteers cheering, and the city alive with energy. But he kept thinking about the girl, the way she had smiled at him, the way she had thanked him. He didn't know it yet, but that small act of kindness was about to change both their lives in ways he could never imagine. By the time the marathon ended, the streets were quieter. People walked home, tired but happy. Medals were handed out, pictures were taken, and stories of perseverance were shared. He packed up his station, feeling a sense of accomplishment. It was another day of hard work, another day of helping others, and it had left him feeling full in a way money couldn't buy. As he climbed the stairs back to his apartment, he thought about his sister and mother waiting for him. He imagined telling them about the morning, about the girl he had helped, about the small difference he had made. And in that moment, he realized something important. Life wasn't about wealth or fame or recognition. It was about moments like this, moments of courage, of kindness, and of connection. He didn't know that the girl he had helped was someone extraordinary, someone whose life was completely different from his. He didn't know that she was a billionaire's daughter, used to a world of luxury and privilege. All he knew was that he had done the right thing, and that was enough. As he stepped into his apartment and smelled the faint aroma of breakfast, he smiled. Life was hard, yes, but it was also full of surprises, and sometimes the smallest acts of bravery could lead to the biggest changes. After the morning had settled and the city streets returned to their usual rhythm, the teen couldn't stop thinking about the girl he had helped. Her face, the mixture of fear and relief in her eyes, replayed in his mind like a scene he couldn't shake. Even though he had returned to his usual routine, the memory lingered, warming him in a quiet, unexpected way. He walked through the streets, slowly, passing familiar shops and street corners he had known all his life. The bakery where the owner always gave him an extra bun for free when he could, the small park where kids played soccer after school, and the old bookstore whose windows were always dusty but full of stories. Everything looked the same, but somehow, today, the world felt a little bigger. Something had happened out there, something that felt important, and he couldn't quite put it into words. Meanwhile, across the city, the girl was being taken care of by her personal assistant and a few security staff. She had returned home, still shaken, but safe. She sat quietly in the living room of her family's luxurious penthouse, the sunlight streaming through the massive windows and highlighting the marble floors and elegant furniture. Everything around her screamed wealth and comfort, but she felt strangely disconnected from it all. Her mind kept going back to the teen, the way he had run toward her without hesitation, the way he had steadied her when she fell, the calmness in his voice that had made her feel safe. She had been surrounded by people all her life, yet it was him, a stranger, who had shown her genuine care. It was a small act, but it had left a big impression. She had never expected to encounter someone like him in her world of careful schedules, guarded steps, and polite smiles. The next day, news of the marathon spread across social media. Pictures and videos circulated showing moments of the race. Runners struggling, volunteers cheering, and the occasional stumble along the way. One particular clip caught the attention of the girl's family. It showed a young boy helping a runner who had fallen. The video was blurry, but the act of kindness was unmistakable. Her father, a man used to controlling every aspect of his business empire, was intrigued. "Who is this boy?" he asked, pointing at the screen. His voice carried a mix of curiosity and surprise, rarely heard in discussions about money and deals. The girl spoke quickly, eager to explain. "That's him. That's the one who helped me. He didn't even know who I was. He just ran to help me." Her words were filled with gratitude and admiration. She felt a deep respect for someone who had no reason to risk his time or effort, yet had done it purely out of kindness. Her father nodded slowly. "Find him. I want to meet him." The teen, unaware of the growing attention, went about his life as usual. After the marathon, he returned to his small part-time job at the local grocery store. He greeted customers with a polite smile, bagged groceries efficiently, and helped older people carry their purchases to the car. The memory of the girl was still with him, but life had its demands and he couldn't linger on it for too long. Later that afternoon, as he was stacking boxes in the back room, his phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. Hesitant, he answered. "Hello?" he said, keeping his voice calm. "Is this the young man who helped a runner during the marathon yesterday?" The voice was formal but not unkind. "Yes, that was me." "Who is this?" "This is a representative for the family of the girl you helped. They want to thank you properly and invite you to meet them." He froze. Meeting them? Thanked properly? He had expected nothing in return for helping her, and the idea of being noticed by someone so important made him nervous. I don't know. I just helped her." "That's all," he said, his voice quiet. The representative was patient. "We understand and we don't want to pressure you. But the family insists. They want to show their gratitude. Please come by tomorrow. No expectations, just a meeting." After the call, he sat down, trying to make sense of it. He was nervous, yes, but also curious. He had grown up in a world where people like him rarely crossed paths with people like her. And now, here was an opportunity that seemed impossible yet real. The next day, he cleaned his clothes as best as he could, trying to look presentable. The worn-out sneakers were polished the little he could manage, and his hoodie was replaced with a simple jacket. He didn't own fancy clothes, but he hoped sincerity would matter more than style. When he arrived at the building, he was stunned. The lobby was massive, with glass walls, polished marble floors, and chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. Everything was brighter, cleaner, and more extravagant than he had ever seen. He felt out of place, but he reminded himself that he was here for a reason. He had helped someone, and he had done it without expecting anything. That was what mattered. The girl came to greet him. She looked different in person, less fragile than he had imagined, more grounded, more aware. She smiled warmly, extending her hand. "Thank you for helping me yesterday. I don't think I would have made it without you." He smiled back a bit awkwardly. I'm just glad you're okay." They walked together into the living room where her parents were waiting. Her father studied him carefully, noting the way he carried himself, the quiet confidence in his eyes and the sincerity that money could never buy. The girl's mother offered a gentle smile, and the entire atmosphere felt welcoming. Though still overwhelming, they talked about the marathon, about what had happened, and about how quickly he had acted without hesitation. He didn't speak about his struggles, his small apartment, or the worries he carried daily. But they could see it in his demeanor, the resilience, the kindness, the courage that came naturally to him. The girl shared her perspective. "I've been in races before, but I've never felt so scared. I didn't know what to do when I fell, but you didn't hesitate. You just helped me," he shrugged modestly. "Anyone would have done the same. You just needed someone there." But she shook her head. "No, not everyone would. You could have kept going or ignored it. But you didn't. That matters more than you think." The conversation lingered on small, simple things, favorite foods, hobbies, little stories from their childhoods. He realized that despite the differences in their worlds, they could talk, laugh, and connect. There was a shared understanding of life, courage, and kindness that bridged the gap between wealth and struggle. Later, the father spoke privately with him. "I want to offer you something," he said. "Not money, not gifts, but opportunities. Education, mentorship, resources to pursue your dreams. You have potential that can't be measured by where you come from." The teen hesitated. Offers like this were rare and often came with strings attached. But he saw the sincerity in the man's eyes. He nodded slowly, realizing that accepting this didn't mean he was abandoning his values. It meant he could finally have the support he had dreamed of without compromising who he was. After the meeting, the girl walked him to the door. "I'm glad you came," she said simply. "Me too," he replied, a small smile forming. He realized that this encounter had changed him. It had reminded him that courage and kindness could open doors in ways he had never imagined. As he stepped back into the streets of his neighborhood, he noticed the contrast immediately. The familiar sounds of vendors, children playing, and cars passing by seemed smaller somehow, but also more comforting. He understood that while the world of wealth and luxury was impressive, his own life, with all its struggles and love, was valuable too. That night he lay in bed, thinking about everything that had happened. He didn't know what the future held, but he felt a spark of hope he hadn't felt before. The girl he had helped was no longer just a memory. She was a reminder that acts of courage, no matter how small, could create ripples far beyond what anyone could imagine. And somewhere, in a penthouse high above the city, a girl smiled, thinking about the teen who had saved her. She didn't know what the future would bring either, but she knew that sometimes the bravest people were the ones who showed up when it mattered most, without thinking of themselves at all. For both of them, life had changed. Not because of money or fame, but because of a simple act of kindness that neither would forget. And that act, quiet and human, was the beginning of a journey that would connect their worlds in ways they had never imagined. The days after the meeting passed quickly, but the memory of the girl and the strange new world she belonged to stayed with him. He found himself thinking about her during his usual routine, while walking to work, helping his sister with homework, or standing in line at the grocery store. There was something about her that lingered, not because of who she was, but because of what she had shown him in that brief moment: courage, trust, and the reminder that kindness could ripple far beyond a single act. Meanwhile, the girl was equally restless. Her life, full of luxury and schedules, suddenly seemed incomplete. She had grown accustomed to being surrounded by people who smiled politely, but rarely cared deeply. Yet the teen, so ordinary by her world standards, had shown her genuine concern and bravery. She replayed the moment he had steadied her when she fell, the way he had spoken calmly, and the way he had encouraged her without hesitation. No guard, no assistant, no bodyguard had ever done that for her. The girl's parents noticed her thoughts. "You're quiet today," her mother said gently. "I'm just thinking," she replied, staring out the large window at the city below. "About him, the boy who helped me." Her father raised an eyebrow, curious. "You mean the boy from the marathon?" "Yes," she said softly. "He's different. Not like anyone I've ever met. He's brave, kind, and he doesn't care about money or status. He just helped." Her parents exchanged a glance. They understood the impact of such an encounter. Their daughter had always lived in a protected world, but meeting someone from outside that bubble, someone who had acted out of pure humanity, was something that could change her perspective. For the teen, life carried on, but not without a sense of anticipation. He received a letter in the mail, an invitation to visit the girl's home again, this time with the assurance of a meeting that included her parents and a few close family friends. He hesitated at first. The world inside that building had felt foreign, almost intimidating, but he remembered the trust and gratitude in her eyes, and he knew that he couldn't turn it down. When the day arrived, he dressed carefully, choosing the cleanest clothes he had and making sure his hair was neat. He wanted to show respect not just for her family but for the opportunity itself. As he approached the building, he felt a mix of excitement and nerves. The lobby was even grander than before, and the polished floors reflected the bright sunlight streaming through the tall windows. Security personnel gave him a polite nod as he passed, and he tried to steady his breathing, reminding himself that he belonged here just as much as anyone else, at least for the moment. The girl greeted him with her usual warm smile. "I'm glad you came," she said. "It's nice to see you again." He returned the smile, feeling more at ease this time. "It's good to see you too." They walked together into a private lounge where her parents and a few family friends were waiting. The room was elegant but inviting, filled with comfortable chairs, soft lighting, and the faint aroma of fresh flowers. The conversation began casually with discussions about the marathon and how quickly events could turn dangerous. He shared his perspective, talking about how he had reacted without thinking, simply because it felt like the right thing to do. Her father listened carefully, impressed by the teen's calm and honest demeanor. "Many people would hesitate," he said. "They might stop to think about themselves first. But you acted immediately, and that shows courage and integrity." He shrugged, trying to make it seem casual. "I just did what anyone should do. I couldn't leave her there." But the girl's mother smiled knowingly. "Not everyone can do that. It takes more than instinct. It takes character, and that is rare." As the conversation flowed, they began to talk about their lives in broader terms. The teen shared stories from his neighborhood, about the small joys and struggles of his daily life. He spoke about helping his sister with schoolwork, the satisfaction of a hard day's work, and the simple pleasures of laughter and friendship. The girl listened intently, fascinated by the ordinary challenges he faced, things she had never experienced. She realized that while she had grown up with wealth and comfort, he had grown up with resilience, patience, and strength that money could never buy. Each story he told painted a picture of a world so different from hers, yet somehow equally rich in lessons and meaning. In return, she shared glimpses of her life, but she didn't boast about wealth or privileges. Instead, she spoke about the pressures of always meeting expectations, the loneliness that sometimes came with her sheltered life, and the desire to experience the world beyond her protected bubble. He listened without judgment, and she felt a rare sense of ease in his presence. During the conversation, her father made an unexpected offer. "I want to help you pursue your dreams, not just in education but in life. We can provide resources, mentorship, and opportunities that can open doors you might not even know exist." The teen's eyes widened, not because of greed, but because of the possibilities it represented. Opportunities like these were rare in his world, and the idea of pursuing his dreams without being held back by financial constraints was almost overwhelming. Yet he also felt a responsibility to remain true to himself, to ensure that he didn't lose the values that had shaped him. I appreciate that," he said carefully. "I don't want to take advantage of kindness. But if it's about learning and growing, then I'd be grateful." His honesty impressed her parents. They saw in him a young man who understood that character and effort mattered more than wealth or privilege. It wasn't just about giving him opportunities. It was about recognizing and nurturing potential that might otherwise go unnoticed. As the meeting continued, the girl leaned slightly closer to him and spoke quietly. "I want to learn from you, not about school or money, but about life, about how you see the world and handle it. You're real, and that's something I rarely see." He smiled, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with recognition or reward. "We all have our ways of surviving. I've learned a lot from the people around me, and I'm sure you have too. Life teaches lessons everywhere. We just have to notice them." They spent the afternoon talking, laughing, and sharing stories that were small in scale but big in meaning. He realized that despite coming from different worlds, they could connect through honesty, empathy, and shared human experiences. It was a reminder that courage and kindness transcended social barriers. Later, as he prepared to leave, her father pulled him aside. "Think carefully about the opportunities we've offered. This is more than just education. It's a chance to shape your future in ways you might not imagine. Don't be afraid to accept help when it's genuine." He nodded, feeling a mixture of gratitude and humility. "I understand. Thank you." The girl walked him to the door. "I'm glad we met," she said simply. He smiled, feeling the weight of the day. "Me too." As he stepped back into the streets of his neighborhood, the contrast was stark. The familiar sounds of vendors, children playing, and cars passing by felt smaller, but comforting in their familiarity. He realized that while wealth and luxury could create opportunities, life's most meaningful experiences came from human connection, courage, and acts of kindness. That night, he lay in bed thinking about the day. He didn't know what the future held, but he felt hope and possibility. The girl was no longer just a fleeting memory from the marathon. She was a reminder that genuine human connection could bridge worlds. and that courage and kindness could create opportunities that money alone could never buy. Somewhere high above the city, she thought about him too. She remembered the way he had helped her, the stories he shared, and the quiet strength he carried. In a life filled with luxury and structure, he had shown her something priceless. That authenticity, bravery, and empathy mattered more than anything else. And for both of them, life had subtly shifted. The encounter, quiet and simple in its beginning, had created ripples that neither could ignore. It was a reminder that sometimes the bravest acts were the smallest, and the strongest connections were forged not through wealth or privilege, but through shared humanity and courage. After their first real meeting, life seemed to shift subtly for the teen. Even though he returned to his usual routine of school, work, and helping his sister, the memory of the girl and the opportunity she had introduced stayed with him. It wasn't about wealth or recognition. It was about possibility. For the first time in a long while, he felt that his hard work and courage could lead somewhere bigger. The invitation from her family to return had been clear. They wanted him to explore opportunities, scholarships, mentorship, and guidance, but only if he felt ready. The teen was cautious. He had grown up seeing promises that never materialized, and he didn't want to be disappointed. Still, there was curiosity, a spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, this time it was different. When he arrived at the family's residence again, the girl was waiting in the lobby with her usual smile. "You came?" she said warmly, her eyes reflecting a mix of excitement and relief. "I did," he said quietly. "I wasn't sure, but I wanted to see." They walked together to a private lounge, the same one they had visited before. Her parents greeted him politely, and a few close family friends joined the conversation. The room was filled with sunlight streaming through the tall windows, and the atmosphere was inviting yet formal. Her father spoke first. "We want you to understand that what we are offering isn't charity. It's an opportunity for growth, education, and skill development. We see potential in you that deserves to be nurtured." The teen listened carefully. He wasn't used to being told that his abilities mattered. His world had often been one where effort didn't always lead to reward, where mistakes were harshly judged, and where survival was the daily challenge. Hearing words of encouragement and support felt strange yet comforting. The girl leaned forward slightly. "We can help you with school, provide resources for your projects, and even connect you with mentors who can guide you. But only if you want it. We can't do it for you. You have to put in the work." He nodded slowly. "I understand. I work hard every day. I'm willing to put in the effort." The conversation then turned toward practical matters. Her father explained scholarship programs, mentorship opportunities, and potential internships. He emphasized that the goal wasn't to change the teen's personality or values, but to provide tools to help him succeed. The teen asked questions about the programs, curious but cautious. The family was patient, answering each question thoroughly and giving him time to consider. During a short break in the discussion, the girl spoke to him quietly. "I've never met anyone like you. You see the world differently than anyone I know. You notice people, you care about them, and you act when it matters. I want to learn from that." He smiled, a little embarrassed by the praise. "I'm not special. I just do what I think is right. Sometimes that's enough to help someone." She shook her head. "No, that's rare. Most people think about themselves first. You don't, and that makes a difference." After the meeting, the teen stepped out into the city streets again. The contrast between the world he had just left and the familiar streets of his neighborhood was stark. Vendors were shouting their daily specials. Children ran past playing soccer with a tattered ball, and the smell of street food filled the air. It was chaotic, noisy, and imperfect, but it was real, and he loved it. As he walked home, he thought about the opportunities the girl's family had offered. It wasn't just about education. It was about opening doors he hadn't even known existed. But he also worried. Accepting help from someone so wealthy felt foreign. Would he be able to maintain his values? Would he become someone he didn't recognize? Meanwhile, the girl was reflecting too. She had been sheltered all her life, surrounded by people who always had their own agendas. But the teen had shown her a world she had never known, a world where actions mattered more than appearances, where bravery and kindness could create change. She realized that despite the differences in their lives, they shared a sense of humanity that connected them. Over the next few weeks, the teen began to explore the opportunities offered to him. He attended mentorship sessions, met with educators, and started learning about subjects he had only dreamed of studying. At first, it was overwhelming. The resources, the attention, and the expectations were unlike anything he had experienced, but gradually he adapted, discovering that he could thrive when given support and guidance. The girl, in turn, became more involved in his journey. She would check in, offering encouragement and celebrating small victories with genuine excitement. Their bond grew stronger, not just as friends, but as people who respected and inspired each other. She admired his resilience and perspective, and he appreciated her curiosity and willingness to see the world beyond privilege. One afternoon, as they sat together in a quiet park near his neighborhood, the girl asked him a question. "Do you ever feel like the world is against you?" He thought for a moment. "Sometimes, but I've learned that even when things are hard, there are always chances to make a difference. You have to notice them and take them when they come." She nodded, absorbing his words. "I think I've been missing that. I've always been protected, but maybe I needed to see what it means to really live." Their conversation was interrupted by a small commotion nearby. A child had fallen off his bike, scraping his knee, and no one seemed to notice immediately. Without hesitation, the teen ran over to help, gently lifting the child and cleaning the wound with a bottle of water he had in his bag. The girl watched, impressed once again by his instinct to help without hesitation. "That's what I mean," she said softly. "You don't think twice. You just act." He shrugged modestly. "It's what I do. I can't leave someone in need." The incident reinforced something important for both of them. Life wasn't about status, money, or appearance. It was about action, empathy, and courage. It was about noticing when someone needed help and responding, no matter the risk or inconvenience. As the weeks passed, the teen began to feel more confident navigating both his neighborhood and the new world of opportunities. He continued working part-time to support his family, studying hard, and learning from his mentors. Yet he never lost touch with the small, everyday acts that defined him, helping neighbors, assisting friends, and showing kindness without expectation. The girl, observing from her world of privilege, began to understand the value of perspective. She realized that courage and integrity were not taught in schools or bought with money. They were developed through experience, empathy, and personal choice. She admired the teen's ability to navigate life's challenges with dignity, and she felt inspired to live more authentically herself. One evening, as the teen walked home after a long day of study and work, he paused at the corner of the street. He watched children play, vendors call out their goods, and neighbors greet one another warmly. Despite the chaos and imperfections, the world felt full of life and possibility. He realized that the opportunities from the girl's family were important, yes, but they were only tools. The real strength came from within: courage, resilience, and the choice to act with integrity. That night, lying in bed, he reflected on how much had changed in just a few weeks. He had been recognized for his bravery, offered opportunities that could shape his future, and formed a meaningful connection with someone from a world so different from his own. Yet through it all, he remained grounded. He understood that true growth wasn't about wealth or recognition. It was about staying true to oneself while embracing the possibilities that life presented. The girl, in her penthouse high above the city, thought about him too. She realized that his presence in her life had opened her eyes to a different kind of strength, one not measured by money, but by actions and choices. She began to see her own world differently, understanding that her life's value wasn't in luxury, but in how she used her resources and influence to make a real difference. Their worlds, once so separate, were beginning to overlap in meaningful ways. The teen learned to navigate opportunities without losing his identity, and the girl learned to see life beyond her privilege. Together they discovered that connection, empathy, and courage could bridge even the widest gaps between people. And so, their journey continued, not just as two individuals from different worlds, but as people who had met through an act of courage and kindness, learning from each other and growing in ways neither had anticipated. The small ripples of a single day at a marathon were now creating waves that could change lives, proving that true heroism often begins in the quietest, simplest moments. The weeks turned into months, and life for the teen had begun to change in ways he could barely imagine. The opportunities offered by the girl's family had opened doors he never knew existed, yet he remained grounded. He continued to work part-time, help his sister with homework, and stay connected to his neighborhood. He hadn't forgotten where he came from, nor the lessons he had learned about courage, kindness, and resilience. With mentorship and guidance, he started exploring subjects he had only dreamed of before. His mind expanded with new knowledge, new ways of thinking, and new possibilities. He began working on small projects, learning how to research, present, and solve problems creatively. For the first time, he realized that education could be more than just a requirement. It could be a tool to change his life and the lives of others around him. The girl remained a constant presence, checking in regularly, sharing encouragement, and celebrating his achievements. She was no longer just the person he had helped at the marathon. She had become a friend and confidant, someone who inspired him to believe in his own potential. Their conversations were no longer about money, status, or privilege. They were about life, choices, and what it meant to truly make a difference. One afternoon, they decided to visit his neighborhood together. She had never really seen his world up close, and he wanted her to understand the life he led before the opportunities arrived. As they walked through the streets, children ran past laughing and neighbors greeted them warmly. The girl observed quietly, taking in the sounds, the smells, and the rhythm of life that was so different from her own. "This is your world," she said softly. "It's alive, real," he smiled. "It's not perfect. Things are hard sometimes, but it's home, and it's full of people who care about each other." She nodded, seeing the beauty in his words. "I can see that. It's different from mine, but I like it. It feels genuine." As they walked further, they came across a small community center. Children were gathered around a table, working on art projects and homework. He introduced her to the staff and the kids, showing her how he often helped organize activities or tutoring sessions. She watched him interact with patience and warmth, noticing how easily he connected with people, regardless of age or background. Later, as they sat on a bench outside, she spoke quietly. "You know, I've learned more from you than I have from anyone else. You've shown me what it means to be brave, kind, and genuine." He shook his head. "I'm not a hero. I just do what I can. Life isn't about being perfect, it's about helping when you can." She smiled. "Maybe that's exactly why you are." The teen felt a strange warmth at her words. For so long he had been unnoticed, overlooked, and underestimated. Yet here was someone who saw him, not for his wealth, his background, or even his grades, but for the person he was. It was a validation that mattered more than any opportunity or reward. Over the next few months, the changes in his life became more visible. He was excelling in school, pursuing projects with guidance from mentors, and gaining confidence in his abilities. He still worked to support his family, but now he could dream bigger. He began to see a future where his hard work and courage could lead to real impact, not just for himself, but for the people around him. Meanwhile, the girl began to grow as well. She started engaging with the community, volunteering at local events, and learning from the people she met. Her sheltered perspective was slowly expanding, and she began to understand that privilege carried responsibility. She realized that her life wasn't just about comfort and luxury. It was about the opportunities she had to make a difference in the world. One day, they attended a local charity event together. The teen had helped organize it with guidance from mentors, and the girl was there to support and learn. Watching the community come together, seeing families, children, and volunteers working side by side, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She realized that the lessons she had learned from him about courage, kindness, and taking action could be applied in her own life to create meaningful change. As the event concluded, a young child approached the teen, holding a small handmade card. "Thank you," the child said shyly. "You helped me with my homework, and I did well on my test because of you." The teen's face lit up. "That's amazing. I'm proud of you. Keep working hard and you'll do even better next time." The girl watched, impressed. "You really make a difference, don't you?" He smiled humbly. "I just try to. Everyone has the ability to help. It's just a matter of noticing when someone needs it." That evening, as they walked home together, she spoke quietly. "I think this is why I admire you so much. You see the world differently. You act when it matters. You don't wait for someone else to fix things. You make a choice." He nodded. "We all have choices. Life doesn't give you easy paths, but it gives you chances to do what's right." Their conversation was interrupted by a small commotion nearby. A stray dog had gotten tangled in some wire and no one else seemed to notice. Without hesitation, the teen ran over, carefully freeing the dog and checking that it wasn't hurt. The girl watched, realizing once again that his courage and empathy were not just words, they were actions, repeated consistently without expectation of reward. "You don't even think about it," she said softly. He shrugged. "If I can help, why wouldn't I?" Over time, their bond grew stronger, built on mutual respect, shared experiences, and an understanding that true courage and kindness weren't defined by wealth, status, or recognition. They inspired each other to grow, to act, and to see the world with empathy. The teen's life began to stabilize in ways he had never imagined. His family's financial situation improved slightly with his part-time work, and the guidance he received allowed him to dream of higher education and a career where he could continue making a difference. Yet he remained humble, aware that his journey was just beginning, and that every small act of courage and kindness contributed to a larger impact. The girl, inspired by his example, continued to engage with the community and use her influence responsibly. She realized that life's value wasn't measured by luxury or privilege, but by the positive impact one could create for others. She began mentoring younger children, volunteering, and using her resources to support causes that mattered. One evening, as they sat together in a quiet park, reflecting on their journey, the girl spoke softly. "I never imagined that a single moment, just one act of courage, could change so much. Meeting you, seeing how you live, learning from you, it's made me see the world differently." He smiled. "Sometimes it only takes one choice to start a chain of change." "I didn't do anything special. I just acted when I could." She shook her head. "It was special, and it mattered more than you know." He looked around at the park, at the families, the children playing, and the people passing by. Life is full of moments like that. We just have to notice them and take action. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, understanding that their journey had transformed them both. The teen had grown confident, skilled, and hopeful for the future, while the girl had learned humility, empathy, and the power of genuine connection. Their worlds, once so separate, had merged through courage, kindness, and human connection. In the months and years that followed, their friendship continued to flourish. The teen pursued his education and career with determination, supported by mentors, resources, and his own unwavering work ethic. The girl continued to use her influence and privilege to create positive change. Inspired by his example, their story became a quiet inspiration to those around them, a reminder that heroism wasn't about fame or wealth, but about the courage to act when it mattered most, and the kindness to make a difference in someone else's life. They had both learned that life's true value lay not in what one had, but in what one gave and the lives one touched. And so, from the chaos of a marathon and a moment of fear, two people from different worlds had met, learned, and grown together. Their journey proved that courage, empathy, and integrity could bridge any gap, create lasting impact, and transform lives in ways no one could have predicted. The teen returned to his neighborhood with pride, hope, and humility, while the girl carried forward the lessons of compassion and bravery, forever changed by the boy who had acted without hesitation and changed her life forever.